I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We have Kash here with us today, UK football player. He's going to share a little bit with us today of his story. Of course, I'm Mark Cain, president and founder of Shelby's Way, and we just want to, I guess, to just get right in there and talk to him and see what's going on in his life and maybe what he can share to help us and help others. I asked you here today for us to talk about these things is that there's so many things that people are going through, being isolated in time and not being able to do the things that they love. And during this isolation, I mean, I've seen a video that you did on Instagram, and brought tears to my eyes, and it spoke to me a lot of what we're doing with Shelby's Way. You put it all out there on that treadmill, and that really struck me because Shelby's Way is first and foremost a ministry that is about compassion, empathy, and love. And people say, why do you think suicide is preventable? Suicide is preventable. Absolutely. And it starts with exactly what you did. Again, thanks for coming
having me, brother. Glad to be here. You've been eyeing my ring here for a little bit.
I know, that's quite a that's wow. That's pretty daggone cool. What's that ring mean to you?
I have 3 of these. This was my junior year, so this is the Citrus Bowl that we won. This is the 10-3 team that I was on with Josh Allen, Benny Snell, and C.J. Conrad, and the list goes on and on of NFL players. Talent and guys that are making an impact in today's NFL playoffs. This one right here means a lot more to me. This is the one that means the most, just because of the guys that I did it with. And the times that we had and the stuff that we had to overcome to get this. Speaking of guys that were just incredibly talented, I mean, you look at a guy like Josh Allen who literally, and I told him this last night, I appreciate the person that Josh Allen is, not the football player. I appreciate him as a football player too, don't get me wrong. But I appreciate the person that Josh Allen is, because he was the number 7 overall pick. He had all this hype built up around him. After the money, after the fame, this dude will still text me and just ask me how I'm doing. That guy like Josh Allen, who has everything in the world going for him right now and has all the money in the world and everything right now, to sit there and text some redneck from East Kentucky he played football with, man, that means more in the world to me than anything. And that's what this means to me, is when I look back at a guy like that I played on this team with. He went out there and played in this game for his team. He was already a projected first-round pick. Didn't need to play in it. Could have got hurt, could have done this, could have done. He said, nope, these are my boys, these are my brothers. I started the battle with them, I'm going to finish the battle with them. So from the time I was a little kid, it was branded into my head that, for me, I told myself I had to meet that expectation or be better than my dad. And so that drove me to do shit as a kid that no kids really do. I mean, I was doing push-ups in the floor till I passed out. I'm running on Saturday mornings. I mean, I'm 9, 10 years old doing this shit. My dad introduced the way of not accepting average, I guess. Maybe could have done it a little different way at times, but it got me to where I am. You know, I always wanted to just fit in.
Everybody wants to be liked or loved.
Liked or loved, or feel like, hey, I got something to offer too. Like now at 23 years old, I can finally say, fuck it. I can look at anybody in a room that comes in there. You can call me this, you could call me that, this, and I can look straight in the mirror, point my middle finger and say, fuck you. Like, that's how I am. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable.
I like that.
One of the things that I remember a lot of people telling me, if they meet me for the first time or something like that, they go, wow, you're really mature for your age. I was like, yeah, thanks. It was a bunch of the trauma and, everything else I went through, so appreciate it. I had to do a lot more stuff as a kid, growing up wise, at a very early age than, a lot of other kids would. So naturally, I started cussing before any other kid.
Yep.
I started chewing tobacco before any other kid because I wanted to be like my dad. Started drinking beer before any other kid because I wanted to be like my dad.
Yep.
I mean, and before you know it, you're 14 years old in real life, but mentally and everything that you've been through and everything that you've had to overcome as a young kid starting out and learn on your own, hell, you're 22 years old mentally.
And see, that's even happening with kids and young adults today that aren't even playing football.
No.
That are just trying to go to school.
Yeah.
And just trying to be, it seems like they're working really hard to make themselves, not necessarily a Kash Daniels, but to make themselves something that they think they need to be on the inside, and it's just not working out.
And that's a lot of the other things too, that people, they compare themselves to others. Mm-hmm. You can't do that, man. Yeah. You can't. And I'm hypocritical even kind of talking like that, because I still do sometimes. And sometimes I literally have to sit there and literally tell myself, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Mm-hmm. And every single day is a mental battle. It's a mental warfare every single day you wake up. But so my grandfather died, and literally I was at the rock bottom of depression that I had ever felt. I mean, I went on Kentucky, and I was always known, like even in the media, as like just some guy that you could always talk to and was go
right.
happy. And I called into, they had a fucking Kash Daniel Day back in Paintsville, and I called into KSR, and I had no excitement whatsoever to be on that call. And people were even, like after that, like my mom texted me, she's like, "Are you okay?" And like my friends texted me, and they're like, "Dude, are you good?" Because you could just hear in my fucking voice that I was not fucking happy.
Didn't have nothing to say about anything anything that drove you?
Nothing. I had nothing. And it was...
And that was after your grandfather's death?
That was after my grandfather died, yeah. And I'd have to stay stoned just to be able to function, just to be able to go through the day.
How do you get away from not doing that and then try to find a way to get through the day?
That's it. I was thinking I was medicating myself, when really I was just gluing myself right to that couch, thinking that, well, mentally I'm sitting there thinking, okay, the really bad depression's gone. At least it's not it was at a 10, now we're at about a 6, okay? And now the only thing I'm doing, I'm skipping class, life is literally falling through my fingertips. Everything that I had worked for, I already won this, I was a senior captain, this and that. I was just, to other people, this big, strong, never gave a shit what anybody thought, badass dude. When in reality, I was just as broken as any other human being walking the earth. And you sit there and you think doing nothing, you're sitting there and you're comfortable, right? You're sitting there and you're going, okay, I'm not doing anything, I'm watching my Netflix, I'm good. And you feel like you're comfortable, when in reality, that's the most discomforting thing you can do for yourself. Sit there and do nothing, because that's when your mind starts to get more clouded. Mm-hmm. That's when that voice comes back saying, well, maybe you are what those other people are saying you are. Maybe you aren't that fucking good. Maybe you are a piece of shit. Maybe you are a scumbag, dirty ass player, this and that. Maybe you are this. And it took me a long time, not really, a long time, but it took me a couple months to finally just hit that fucking button. And ever since then, it's been still an uphill battle. But when you have your safe haven, like you have here in your garage, and now I've found more stuff that I can do. Like I hit the weight room more than I ever have.
That's when I go back and I look at Shelby. He had so many things that he enjoyed to do, but yet it's like you were talking earlier, when you're sitting there on the couch watching Netflix and you think you're having a good time and you're okay with mm-hmm. it, but you're really not. Mm-hmm. I think to myself, how many times that Shelby couldn't pull himself out of not realizing where he was at. It's in those moments, those darkest moments, those isolated moments, when that thought comes up too, that like you said, I'm not good enough, I suck, nobody likes me, the whole 9 yards. And how many times that Shelby told him himself that before he took his life?
I've been at that spot, man. I've been there.
Have you ever had thoughts of taking your life?
It's never been a permanent thought to stick, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't skim across my mind. Or just sitting there thinking, hey, you might be better off. When you're at that place It is the darkest, loneliest. Never could have imagined something that dark. Ever. You can never sit there and say, damn, I could be in this spot. You can never sit there and imagine that.
I try to think about that spot that Shelby was in, and just like you've talked about these folks, is that how much hurt, how much pain to be in, to know that you want to pull that trigger or you want to take your life. Sometimes I think he is the most bravest person in the world, when some people say it's the most cowardly thing to do.
I tend to look at it, and there's certain situations when you look, and like somebody that has a family, and it's so sad that they got to this point that they were willing to leave their children. They're willing to leave the love of their life.
Yep.
Because of what their mind's telling them, and not what reality is.
What reality? Yeah.
You know, it's a completely different world.
And
when you're up here.
And right now, during everything that we're going through with COVID and the isolation and the problems with money and everything, our 25 to 45-year-old adult males that are married and have children aren't thinking, and they're taking their lives, and they're leaving their families, and they're leaving these people behind.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even have to dig down deep inside to share an emotion and to cry.
That's the expectation of life, bro.
Exactly.
That's what we talk about. That's the expectation
and to put it
of life.
put yourself totally out there where you're the most vulnerable, that at that time, when you're in those tears and you're sharing that just deep, deep thought, and you're sharing the most ultimate and the most sensitive feelings that you have, that you're the most vulnerable, that somebody could come in and do absolutely anything to you, and you're not equipped at that time to protect yourself.
Right.
That's what I want that's what I want people to get to when they start sharing. Make yourself to where you are unprotected. Throw it all out there and lay it all on the line and really get it out.
Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's it. So. And see, that's great. I'm going to think about that all the time, because when people ask me to speak or ask me to do things, you know, I always tell everybody I'm just a silly redneck. I tell people all the time that, you know, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a redneck that loves you.
Right.
And so
I think there needs to be more. There needs to be more of that.
Yeah.
Except you don't need to see a licensed psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. Just talk to your buddy.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. And the thing about it is, like for me, I always thought for the longest time, man, like fucking talk about my feelings, you fucking pussy. Like what? Yeah. Like is that like what the fuck are you talking about?
And it's been instilled in us.
Yeah, and it's just like, but in the way that, and I went to somebody to actually just to finally start opening up, because man, I had a breakdown, and my depression really started with, because like I said, I grew up an angry kid. My depression turned to anger a lot, but you'd be surprised of how many people you could just sit down and say, hey man, let me holler at you for a second. And they'd be sitting there, hey man, yeah, you know, I feel that way sometimes too, you know, or this or that. I mean. And, you know, obviously you choose that with people that you're comfortable with.
Right.
But like I said, there's sometimes you're going to have to be uncomfortable doing it. I can actually talk to somebody that I don't have to, you know, you don't have to go pay an hourly fee for. Right. You can just sit down and talk to anybody. And
it don't have to be a one-time conversation. No. This can be something. I always talk about, you know, coming out of the closet, so to speak, and talking about things. This is something that you can do. I'm not saying you're going to do it all the time, but this is something that you need to do. When you feel these things, when you have these anxious thoughts, and you're having these thoughts, and share with people.
You have to have these interactions with other people, and like we were talking about earlier, with everything that's going on right now, that's absolutely killing interactions. Be comfortable with who you are, and be comfortable being uncomfortable moving forward of how you're going to better yourself each and every day, because you're going to have to get uncomfortable.
Because you're not just Kash Daniels, UK football player.
No, that's literally the last thing I am. Now, I mean, when I played, that's great. Yeah. And it was the best time of my life. I mean, I wish I could go back and do it all over again. I would go through the hell days of camp, and you know, the workouts and the time spent there. I would do it all over again, because I look back at it now, and now it's built on my mental armor of how much more stuff I can endure and keep moving forward. So many times when I was out there, and it was just, when things got hard, and you think about, you know, am I really cut out for this shit, you know, or this and that, just think about the opportunity that I had and the people that I did it for. And but yeah, it's over with now, and there's no more hitting people. There's no more rings. There's no more any of that, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with who I am now, and people, and especially like, and one thing I learned the hard way is that once you stop giving people something that they love, you don't have anything else to offer anymore. That's when those people stop coming around. That's when you find out who your real friends are. That's when you find out who your real people are. And that was one thing that I always loved Coach Stoops for, and will forever love Coach Stoops for, is that he never tried to change who I was. He's like, that's Cash. Let Cash be Cash.
And that makes life even harder when people try to change you.
Oh yeah, yeah, it does. It's like, man, I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly.
Yep. Well, I, for one, want to thank you so much for coming in here and sitting down with us today and talking.
Amen.
I know
No
to
problem
open
at all.
yourself up like this is vulnerable, and
I'm more comfortable doing it now.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable being uncomfortable doing this stuff, and now it's not even and the more you do it, the more uncomfortable it gets. The more you find a comfort zone in being able to talk. So, thank you for having me here, man. It was awesome to sit down and talk to you and open up with you. And I hope that people that see this, they can know that it's okay, to go out and just talk to somebody. This is the first time I met you.
Yep. We'd
And
never ever met before. We immediately just sat down and started talking.
And so all it takes is for that one person to sit there and listen, and that's all it takes. But
there was one part of me really excited. I'm going to meet Kash Daniel, but now after sitting down here talking to you, I've made a good friend.
yes, sir.
And I really appreciate it.
Thank you, my brother. If there's everything I can do to help, you always got me.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yep.